Hi sir, this is Camille Ritter, and the system I will be discussing today is the Zero Series Shinkansen train, or more popularly, the original. The bullet train was, as I defined it, a success. The bullet train redefined what the future of transportation would be. At the time of its premiere in 1964, the future of transportation was thought to be in the form of planes and personal automobiles. The Zero Series Shinkansen was able to successfully establish its legitimacy, perform for its life cycle without any major issues, and made way for the 100, 300, and 500 series of the bullet train. Now we'll get into the history of this system, but first, a fun fact. In 1964, when the Japanese Republic asked the people to submit possible names for the train, they received almost 560,000 replies. Of these responses, Atom, the popular animation character known as Astro Boy overseas, as well as Lightning, Peace, and Olympia were potential names for the train. Now, onto this history of locomotives in general. The first trains date back to ancient Greece when people found out that they could transport goods much quicker on roads with pre-built constraints for carts pulled by horses. They became even more popular in 18th century Great Britain as a means to transport goods from the mines to the factories. Then, at the turn of the century, James Watt patented the steam engine. This revolutionized the locomotive world as trains could now go much quicker and longer with the use of this engine. Steam engines worked by burning a fuel source. The heat produced by the fuel would produce steam when it came into contact with water. The steam would then turn the pistons necessary to make the train run. The first steam engines used wood, and then adapted to burn coal. After World War II, the locomotive world was again revolutionized with the introduction of the diesel engine. In time, diesel engines would combine with electric energy to create the diesel-electric engine which is used today. This engine utilizes voltage and current to create a magnetic field which then turns the pistons to run the train. These motors are the ones still used today and were used in the Zero Series bullet train at its debut in 1964. It's time for fun fact number 2. The bullet trains are known for their spotless interior. However, the train only stops for 12 minutes in between every trip, and the cleaning process of the entire train, which has around 100 seats, is under 7 minutes. Now, on to the classification of a Zero Series bullet train. The Zero Series bullet train is a physical man-made non-living system. Here is shown the system boundary of the operating system of a bullet train. As you can see, passengers as well as crew members enter the train with their tickets as well as personal belongings. After they enter the train, the passengers and crew members have different roles. The passengers submit their tickets, get themselves settled, and wait until the train ride is over. The crew members, however, must collect the tickets, make sure the passengers have loaded correctly, and then begin initial checks on equipment. They also must begin the trip. The crew members must also check throughout the trip on passenger satisfaction as well as the functioning of the train to make sure that the train arrives at its destination. At the conclusion of the train ride, both crew members and passengers will make their way off the train at the correct location with all personal belongings accounted for. The internal feedback of this system comes from things that can be observed throughout the train ride. Things that could be observed that would send feedback to the system owner would be a malfunctioning in the train or a decline in passengers. Outside of the system owner would receive feedback from passenger surveys, worldwide rankings of train systems, or consumer reports. This system is a gray box system because although we can see how a lot of the train works by observable behaviors like in the diagram, most people, unless they have worked on a bullet train, would not know the inner workings of the train. It's time for fun fact number 3. The average delay of a Shinkansen traveling between Tokyo and Osaka was 36 seconds in 2012. This number includes delays due to natural disasters. To put this in perspective, Amtrak states on its website that trains traveling 400 kilometers or less are considered on time if they arrive within 10 minutes of scheduled. This is a systemogram showing the interconnectedness of all the parts of the system that go into making the bullet train successful. In blue are all of the stakeholders of the system, including the Japanese government, the 4 companies that operate these trains, the shareholders, board of directors, and the passengers. In the large gray and yellow node are all the upkeep factors that keep the train working. There are many more factors that go into making the Shinkansen rail system successful, but shown here are all the major factors I have identified. To organize the factors hierarchically, I have made a spatial diagram starting with the meta system up top. This is the overarching system that encompasses the bullet train. I have identified this as the Shinkansen Railway Network. Below that are the systems inside the metasystem. For this I chose the bullet train as well as the rail lines that the Shinkansen railway network chooses to maintain. For subsystems, I chose the various cars on the train, in particular the generator car as well as the passengers' cars. And finally, for the elements, I chose the operating crew as well as the diesel-electric engine that powers the train. Fun fact number 4. Bullet trains were thought to be outdated at the time of their debut. Many at the time thought that the future of transportation was in planes or personal automobiles, and the Japanese government originally had planned to build the large train system in the late 19th century. However, the Japanese government decided to go through with the plan anyways. Now, the system life cycle. The system began with a need for the system established by the Japanese government. After the completion of the Second World War, Japan's economy rapidly grew to reestablish itself. This caused many people to move towards the countryside as its urban areas expanded. The government sought a faster way to transport its citizens, namely from Tokyo to Osaka. In this system, the Japanese government acted as the decision maker. The Zero Series train was risky to make because of the sheer size of the project. When developing the system concept, many were unsure, as stated before, that trains were the right decision for the Japanese people who would ultimately be the consumer of the system. However, it was decided by the Japanese government to go on with the plan. If the Japanese government's gamble on locomotives over air travel or subsidizing automobiles didn't pan out, the government, especially after the devastation of World War II, would have taken a very harsh blow financially. The Zero Series train was designed by a group employed by the government. This team realized that all of the tracks in Japan had to be replaced with standard-sized tracks, which was an extremely large and risky undertaking, considering that this project did not have the guarantee that it would be successful. The first train was deployed in 1964. The Zero Series train served for 20 years, operated by train crews, the users of the system, until the 100 Series bullet train replaced it. Throughout the development of the system's life cycle, an ethical risk the government had to take on was the potential that the project could bankrupt the economy. At the time the idea was being conceived, Japan's current transportation devices were estimated to be at 150% of full capacity. The government had to be very sure of what they were doing, or else the blunder could damage the present and future economy of the nation, sending the Japanese people into instability. Today, bullet trains are still used in Japan. Although they have come a long way from the Zero Series trains, they still bear resemblance to the Zero Series and perform the same functionalities as the original bullet trains. The bullet trains, originating with the Zero Series, have spread innovation in what the world of locomotives can be. Each series of bullet trains has been faster and more efficient than the previous. Presently, the Japanese, along with many other countries, are experimenting with magnetic levitation technology, which allows the train to move even faster than ever before. Although no one can say for sure what the future of locomotives holds, we can be sure that they will be faster and better than we could have ever imagined.